All right, so Addie, you've made the decision to go to SBU out of high school. Kind of tell me about maybe like one or two things that went into that final decision to end up at SBU, and then what was your time like at SBU for the 3 semesters you were there?
So I did decide to go to SBU. There was the next part of that was actually getting accepted into the school, which is I didn't actually know about. Kind of thought if the coach said you're in, you're in. So you have to apply, you have to write essays, you have to do, there's a number of things you have to do to actually get into college, which it was eye opening at that point. It was kind of like a mad rush. But I got in there. It was a great school. It's a private school, religious based. But once you get to meet your teammates, it's almost like you have a family. You're moving out of your own house from your mom and dad, and it makes you a little nervous. You're excited to go as a young person, but it's still nerve wracking.
Tell me at what point in your high school career, when did you decide or commit to SBU? Was there a date, or do you kind of remember that?
Yeah, so actually it was late. So it was the summer after my senior year. Like I didn't have any commitments, and I didn't really have anybody pursuing me until I started reaching out and kind of reaching out hard at the end.
So that explains the mad rush that you went through to get everything done. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then you meet your teammates, and it's just like a whole new family. So you hang out together, you eat together, you study together, you play golf together, you practice together, you talk about golf together. It's just it was a super fun experience. And the only reason I had transferred was a scholarship issue, more or less. There was a lot of good players on the team that had committed prior to and kind of, I guess, did their due diligence to get in to SBU and be recognized and get those golf scholarships available. And I was just kind of last at the table. So, I wanted more playing time. And I felt like I'd proven myself as far as ability and qualifying, but it comes down to scholarships a lot of times, unfortunately, but that's just the way it works. So I had reached out to Evangel, to Coach Jenkins, Steve Jenkins, who was the former golf coach, current basketball coach still. And he said, look, I'd love to have you. We don't have much in the way of scholarships, but you're welcome to come down, do a tour. I'll see what I can get for you and go from there. So it was a little closer to home. It made sense at the time to make that move, and I think it was more for more playing time. I love the school. The atmosphere was great. I had plenty of friends there that I'd grown up playing against, other sports as well. Even one of my best friends from high school was there playing golf and football. So, it was an easier adjustment than I think just bouncing around to schools. And it was enjoyable. We got to play a lot of cool courses. We got to travel a lot. The coach was fantastic, and he was definitely he was a very good mentor, not only for golf but for life as well. Which there's a lot of lessons that go together on the golf course.
Totally.
So I think that was his way of teaching, and I think every coach is different. But it was good, and then it kind of shaped me to go to the next level, which was professional golf. I gave that a shot, and his son had played professionally for quite a few years, had some success, didn't necessarily make it, as far as the term goes. But he was fun to play with, and he could say, he could kind of show you around the course to, shave 5 or 6 strokes, or, kind of teach you how to play holes a little differently to make it easier on yourself.
Right.
So there was a lot to that. And then that kind of took me to that next level of saying, like, okay, I can compete. I've done well in college. I've won a few tournaments. I've stayed consistent. But I need to get to that next level of being under par consistently. So, that got me there, and then, learning better practice habits and learning how to more of a dedication than a hobby almost.
Right.
But that got me to the next level of playing pro. And I had some success there too. It is a long, tiring road. And you've been on it, and the weeks that you play great are fantastic, and the weeks that you don't play very good are not very good. But you have to learn every single time. Every single tournament or every time you tee it up, you usually learn something.
Yeah.
So, that's how you get to the next level, I think. And it's a hard road, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, I would say your story in general, from playing, locally, playing in high school golf at Republic, not being heavily recruited or anything like that, and then SBU, Evangel, and then ending up, playing professionally for a little bit. That's a very unique story. Not many kids that, are local, play in college, and then kind of the smaller NAIA schools end up playing professional. I was going to ask you, I got a couple questions for you here.
Sure.
Do you are there any regrets that you maybe didn't get an opportunity to play in college at a bigger school, just because you were a great player at Evangel, but just for the sake of competition and golf courses and stuff like that? Like I said, I don't want you to just be like, oh, I regret my time at Evangel, but in general, have you ever thought like, oh, it'd be really fun to be able to play in bigger tournaments against, the big schools or anything like that? Because obviously you were a good enough player to be able to do that.
Right. So I do. I watch now that the NCAA is on the Golf Channel every year. Like it's fun to watch that, and it kind of makes you think back, like, what could I have done to get to, South Carolina or Florida or Texas or Oklahoma or, really any other D1 school. It's easy to sit back and say, well, I could have done this and I could have done that. But, how do you change it? So the idea of regrets is, I would like to say yes. I could have done this differently, or I could have had a recruiting service available, if I could have found one. But, I didn't take that opportunity, and I didn't really know about them either. So,
Right.
I loved my time at Evangel, and, I do think that, I could have competed at the Division I level. And even my golf coach at the time, Coach Jenkins, which his son-in-law was Neil Stafford at Missouri State, and he said, I honestly don't know why you're at Evangel. You have the talent to play elsewhere. And he had talked to Neil, and there's things that you can't do in college, as far as how coaches can talk to each other, or how you can get to different divisions. So it's kind of a tricky game as far as the coaching and reaching out to students. There's certain things that the NCAA,
a lot of rules,
right? And a lot of people don't know that. So.
Yeah.
You kind of have to take that initiative, and they'll let you know. If they can't tell you, give you an answer at that time, they'll typically let you know. And then,
right.
I don't think it's something to be discouraged upon, but there's just a lot of rules that they have to follow. That makes their job from recruiting pretty difficult.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Addie, one last question for you here, and this is the question I'm asking everybody here on this unique series that comes on as a guest, and it's just, if you were to be able to talk to your younger self, or if you had a kid who is a freshman in high school or something like that, is there any advice you would give them if they said, hey, I have a desire to play in college? Are there any steps you would give them aside from just play good golf, about what it takes to kind of get to the next level, or maybe things you would do differently if you're talking to a younger self?
So probably a couple things. One, practice putting. Don't stop practice putting. Two, well, maybe three things. Two, you don't need to hit just driver on the driving range all day long. Like you've got other clubs you need to practice with. But three, mainly, is really just stick with your own confidence. If you know that you can go out there and you can compete and and you have that confidence, that will take you probably farther than a lot of talents will. And Hank Haney is, I'm trying not to digress too much, but Hank Haney was on, when he was on the radio, was talking about the confidence in people, and he had mentioned like that it sounded like it was just an item on a shelf that you go buy, but it's not. I mean, anybody that's on a confidence high is playing well. They're swinging well. They just believe in themselves enough to make that putt if they have to. But if you're confident in your game and you know what you're doing out there, you really shouldn't have any troubles. But never be afraid to seek out information as far as contacting college coaches or contacting colleges, contacting other players and locally or at a golf course. There's almost any golf course in Springfield has a handful of people that played in college, and they may be the old guys, barely hitting it off the end of the range tee, but there's a chance that they've got some advice for you, and that's usually pretty good advice.
Yeah. I mean, communication in general, I mean, whether you're talking to yourself, talking to me, talking to anybody else at your course, like it's a communication skill. And then it's the next step, talk to coaches, talk to, you just never really know where things can go. But in golf, it's a game we play for our whole lives, and we don't do it to just, be out there by ourselves. Like there's a really fun social aspect of the game, and it all comes from communicating. So you're absolutely right on that. Yeah. So, but Addie, I appreciate you taking some time to come on and kind of share your story a little bit, as I'm sure a lot of kids locally and their families are able to relate to a lot of the things that you shared. So thank you for taking some time, and hopefully we get to see each other on the golf course here sooner than later.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, Addie, be well.
You too.